World War I, a conflict that started because this guy got shot and somehow ended with four empires collapsing and everyone agreeing they should never do this again. Until they did again, 20 years later. Today we are diving into the strangest and the most unbelievable facts from the early years of the First World War. And remember, this is the first long video of this channel. So, considering leaving a like and subscribe means a lot to me. Now buckle up. This is the kind of history they don't teach in school. Probably for a good reason. Fact number 1. The war started because of the worst road trip in history. Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination wasn't inevitable. It was just incredibly unlucky. After a failed grenade attack, the Archduke insisted on visiting his wounded man. His driver took a wrong turn straight into the street where Gavrilo Princip, the other failed assassin, was sulking in a cafe. Princip stepped out, saw the royal couple parked directly in front of him, and basically said, "Well, this is convenient." One wrong turn, chain reaction, 20 million dead. Imagine starting the First World War because you didn't check the route. Fact number 2. Everyone thought the war would be over by Christmas. In 1914, European leaders confidently claimed the war would last a few months. Some even encouraged citizens to go fight because you will be home by Christmas. Yeah, except Christmas 1914, 1915, 1916, 1917. All passed while millions sat in the muddy ditches while being shelled by an artillery. This is the same energy as someone saying, "This project will only take one afternoon." And suddenly it's 3 years later, your life is falling apart and you still haven't finished. Fact number 3. British soldiers fought in kilts. Yes, kilts. Highland regiments went into battle wearing tartan skirts because tradition. No trousers, no protection, just Scottish courage and an unfortunate breeze. One German diary described them as the woman from hell. Imagine being so dangerous, the enemy isn't even sure what gender you are. Fact number 4. The Christmas truce. When soldiers took a break to play football. On Christmas 1914, soldiers from both sides stopped shooting, climbed out of the trenches, and exchanged gifts, food, and Christmas songs. They even played football in no man's land. That moment was so peaceful that many generals hated it, because it made soldiers realize the other side were humans too. World War I didn't stop for politics, but it did stop for a casual football match. Fact number 5. Trenches were so gross, they had trench food and rat armies. The trenches were muddy bacterial soup. Cold plus water plus no dry socks equals trench food. Feet swelled, rotted, and sometimes had to be amputated. And the rats? They grew fat from the corpses and were described as cat-sized. Imagine trying to sleep while artillery shakes the earth. Water floats your boots, and the rat the size of a loaf of bread steals your dinner. This wasn't Call of Duty. This was surviving a horror movie. Fact number 6. France actually built a fake Paris. To confuse German bombers, France constructed a miniature fake Paris, not of the real one. Roads, buildings, fake railway, even fake lights. German pilots wasted bombs on it. It's the world's earliest example of let's just pretend we are not home. Fact number 7. The British Army built fake trees to hide snipers. By 1915, the Western Front had become a frozen stalemate. If you could see the enemy first, you lived. If not, you died. British engineers noticed something worrying. German snipers kept shooting at certain trees, not randomly, specifically. So the British did something completely logical for World War I. They built fake trees. Royal engineers studied real trees near the front line, their height, bark texture, branch angles, even existing bullet holes. Then they constructed exact hollow metal replicas. At night, under cover of darkness, soldiers crept into the no man's land, cut down a real tree, and replaced it with the fake one. By morning, nothing looked different. Except now, inside the tree was a British sniper or artillery observer, sitting perfectly still for hours, sometimes days, inside a cramped metal shell. No movement, no bathroom, no comfort. If the Germans figure it out, the tree became a steel coffin. In World War I, even trees couldn't be trusted. Fact number 8. Communication was so bad that pigeons became heroes. Modern warfare relies on radios. World War I relied on birds. Radio technology was unreliable. Wires were constantly cut by shellfire, and runners rarely survived long enough to deliver messages. So armies turned to carrier pigeons, and they were terrifyingly effective. One pigeon, cher ami, delivered a message that saved nearly 200 surrounded American soldiers. Despite being shot, blinded in one eye, and losing part of a leg, the bird received medals. Some officers didn't. While your most reliable soldier has feathers, you know technology isn't ready yet. Fact number 9. Soldiers were taught to wait for someone to die, then take their rifle. The Russian army faced severe equipment shortages early in the war. In some units, there were more soldiers than rifles. New recruits were reportedly instructed to advance without weapons, wait for someone in front of them to be killed, then pick up fallen rifle and continue. This wasn't strategy. This was desperation disguised as orders. It perfectly captures World War I logic. You will be armed eventually, just not immediately. Logistics failed, but optimism remained strong. Fact number 10. The last one. Early tanks were slower than walking, and sometimes got lost. When tanks were first introduced in 1916, they were meant to break the stalemate. Instead, they broke down. Early tanks moved about walking speed, overheated constantly, got stuck in the mud, required crews up to 8 men, and occasionally went in the wrong direction. One of the first tank drivers in history reportedly missed the battle entirely after getting lost. This was armored warfare's debut. Heavy, loud, unreliable, and absolutely terrifying to anyone seeing it for the first time. The tank didn't change the war that day, but it confused everyone. That was the part 1 of the strangest realities of the First World War. A war that proved humans can be both unbelievably brave and unbelievably stupid at the same time. Stick around for part 2, where things somehow get even stranger. Thank you for watching.